right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of What the Hall's Going On with me, Chloe Anderson, and Vice President Braden Fels.
Hey everybody, how's it going today? So we're really excited to bring you this first episode of What the Hall is Going On. It's been in progress for about 4 or 5 months now since the idea was first formulated.
Yeah, about since April, March. So we're very excited. We have a very special guest host on today. If you would like to introduce him, Braden.
Yeah, definitely. So our guest host today hails from Carmel, Indiana. He is the Inner Residence Hall Association's Director of Leadership, Adam Zeitlin. Adam, how's it going today, man?
It's doing pretty good. How you doing, Braden? I'm so excited to be on. Excited to also be on with you, Chloe, too.
Adam is very excited. He took his B-roll before we started podcasting, and he's very excited. So I'm glad to have him as the first guest on our show.
Yeah,
so
when I was
very enthusiastic.
When I was asked to be on here, I was like, why am I like not already like penciled in? I was like, come on, I gotta be on.
First person came to mind. We were like, we have to get Adam on here immediately. But a fun fact about Adam is his first event he planned for IRHA's Director of Leadership position was this weekend. Would you like to talk about that and explain what it is?
Sure. So as a Director of Leadership, I've got 3 things I'm required to do every year. One of those things is the banquet at the end of the year. One is the leadership recharge, which is going to happen in February. And then the first thing I'm supposed to do, and the one that happened most recently, was it was the IRHA leadership retreat, and that's what happened on Sunday. There we go.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Adam. So your event obviously was a big success. You had some big people speaking there. Do you want to kind of speak about what the process was going and getting these different people to come speak at your event and who all came?
Sure. So process of getting everyone first was like planning. So you had like plan the whole event. And like to do that, it came down to how I wanted to structure the event, who I wanted to have there. And so the people that I reached out to was the Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Younger, as well as 4 different organizations. NRHH, also known as the National Residence Hall Association, and I had their president, Nick Stelter, and Vice President Julia Pedroza there. I also reached out to student government and we were able to get VP Quinn Margaret himself in person. And then I was also able to get someone from STARS and Cyclone Aid, Haley Sawyers. And then finally, we were also able to get resident assistant Nick Stelter, who works in Helzer, to be there and just kind of present about what their organizations do. And so it was just really exciting to have that back and forth communication during the planning phases and get people to show up and present.
No, yeah, definitely. And we want to just quick correct Adam. It's the National Residence Hall Honorary, not Association.
That's
Another little side note. The men's basketball team is doing media day next to us. So if you hear talking and or basketballs in the background, that is what that is from.
Hey, you mean the future Big 12 Conference champion Iowa State Cyclone men's basketball team?
That's a mouthful, but that is what I mean.
and Big 12 Freshman of the Year Omaha Bowl.
Yeah, we're excited to watch them this season. But so, Adam, what do you think is one thing that went really well in either the planning or the execution of your event?
What I think went really well is just the whole planning phase. I really marathoned it. I started working on it in May and just worked with some of those like bigger picture items with like the food, the room, and then from that, like not having to deal with like, oh, where am I gonna have it, where am I gonna eat? I could focus more on like who's gonna be there, how I wanted to format the event, who I wanted to affect, and then once I took care of those smaller topics, I could get even smaller. Like, oh, what does the presentation look like? What does our like strategy for breaking up into small groups look like? Where are we going to have people sitting? Is it going to be assigned seating or open seating? So just focusing with really big picture early on and then shrinking it down smaller and smaller made me not like really worry about stuff last minute. It's like, oh, it's all set in stone, we're all ready to go. And then when we're at the event, it's just we take what we've planned and we just run through it versus like freaking out. And so that's what I think was really good, was just starting off with big picture and breaking it down smaller and smaller.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it was a really fun event. I know it was besides having to miss the Bears blowing a potential win. It was a fun way to spend my Sunday afternoon, and I went 3-0 in fantasy too, so that made it even better. In the planning of your event, obviously when you're planning an event this size, what was one thing that you think you could have done better on, or one thing that kind of caused some struggles or hardship for you?
Definitely. I feel like when you're working with like different organizations, especially like with ISU dining, ISU catering, like sometimes you like don't understand what they're telling you, and so like just having like closer relationship with the people I was working with, because with dining, I kind of had to like just send like one day for like 3 hours, I was just emailing back and forth with a representative trying to figure out what we were doing for food, because I like sent in a contract, but then it like something happened. We like changed who was working with me, which was like really weird. It's like I had like one person that was like working with me, and then they weren't there anymore, and so I had someone else working with me, and just so like having like good like connections and conversations throughout the whole thing versus just sitting down on like a Saturday and being like, oh, I can actually know what's going on with food. But outside of that, I thought it was pretty solid.
I can't confirm. There was one time when I was CC'd on this whole thing where Adam had a like 10, 15, like 10 to 15 like email long chain with, I think it was catering.
Yeah, I was catering.
He was trying to explain it to me afterwards, and I just like did not understand what was going on. But it ended up working out in the end, and I liked the food. The cookies were huge.
What was your guys' favorite cookie that was in or favorite meal item that they had?
The monster cookies. Those looked good. Well, I had half of one and it was really good, but they look really good too.
Yeah, Dave pulled out the like monster M&M cookie and was like, "Oh, monster!" And I was like, "Bro, that thing looks so good. I want one."
For those of you who don't know, Dave is our advisor. It's Dave Garceau, and he is the coordinator of Residence Life. Well, one of the 4.
Yeah, for me, the molasses cookie I had in mind blew me out of the water. Tastes like a great gingerbread cookie.
Betsy's our treasurer. Betsy got the short end of the stick there because she traded me her chocolate chip for the monster cookie.
So, Adam, obviously you've been involved for 3 years now in Residence Hall community. Why have you stuck with IRHA for the last 3 years?
Definitely. So my story just with IRHA, I'm just gonna run through all of that real quick, is like really different than I think most. So I originally never started off the year in IRHA. As a freshman, I was the vice president of my hall, and then my hall's president became treasurer of the building I was living in, Joffrey. So then became like house president, and ended up started like going to like weekly Joffrey Hall meetings. And then our hall vice president left the building, I think because like a roommate issue. And so I ended up becoming like hall vice president of Joffrey. And that's when I originally started coming to IRHA. So I ended up joining IRHA like October of freshman year, and I stuck with it all the way through. Then going into the senior year, I was like, I really enjoyed doing IRHA, but I just did not want like a cabinet position whatsoever, just due to the time, just the time that goes into that. And so until about February of sophomore year, I just didn't do anything like with like IRHA or anything. And then I met Chloe, Braden, and then Thomas and Ariana, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come back?" And I was like, "Sure." So I came back, and then I was an at-large member for 3 months, and then going into like election season, following election season, I ran for director of leadership for this year, and now I'm here at as director of leadership for IHAS for my junior year. And I think the reason I always stuck and came back is I really enjoy making a difference like in the community I live in and like where I live. And IHA is a really good place where you're like able to come and help make those like impacts on your community, and it's like really accessible too.
Yeah, I definitely feel like one of my favorite things about IRHA is just the ability to, if you want to see something change, you absolutely can. I do want to know really quick, Adam, what is one thing you'd like to see change on campus? I think we need to bring this up.
Okay, I was not going to bring it up, but since
I think we must. I think we have to.
I think that Friley Windows should have a sidewalk from the entrance that like goes into like the big green grass area. We should throw up a picture if you can do that.
I can
down
do that in post,
to like
yeah.
Down to the road, because people just cut through the grass all the time, and then in the winter, like people still cut through, but it's snowy. But by like putting like a sidewalk there, it'd be like safer, and also like make it so like we're like not destroying the grass there. So I want a sidewalk from Friley Windows entrance down to the like sidewalk by the road near like Laverne.
You started talking about things you wanted to see change on campus, and I knew I had to bring it up because one of my favorite things about working with Adam is at any like professional meeting that we have, he has to bring it up. He has to ask what can be done about it, and I just think it's so funny every time.
Yeah, because it's a must. It's a student.
It's
need.
you need.
Yeah,
it's a need on
exactly.
campus. This is non-negotiable for Adam Zeitlin.
Right.
I will say, VP of Student Government Quinn also agrees with me on this. So
That's a big name to have in your pocket.
it's
Sure.
gaining support. Okay, it's
He
gaining
brought it
support.
up to Senior Vice President of Student Affairs Toya Younger one time.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we'll see that happen.
Maybe if you see it happen, it was Adam.
Leadership.
So Adam, why did you run for Director of Leadership this year?
Sure. So like just some backstory, like through high school and stuff, I was like really involved with like Boy Scouts of America. I was like senior patrol leader as an Eagle Scout. I went through like all my eligibility until I was 18. I was actually supposed to be like SPL of my troop like for summer camp the week before I aged out. But then that kind of fell through because they were like, we're not going to have you do that. I was like, okay, we won't do that. But and so just like looking at the positions available, which are finance, communications, director of events. Am I missing one? Leadership. And then NCC I didn't know that existed at the time. I just felt like I could do events, and I've got experience in event planning. Finance, I've not done a lot of finance. Communications, I don't know. That really wasn't my like forte necessarily. Yeah, but when it came to like leadership, just like having that like experience of like leadership back in high school, I was like, maybe I can like do something well with like that position. So that's why I kind of applied, was just high school experience, as well as like being a leader on campus, like as I mentioned with like Joe Free vice president and doing NRHH and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, fair enough. Speaking of being a leader on campus, your freshman year you won the Outstanding Student Leader Award. What did that mean to you?
I forgot about that actually for like a hot second. I forget that I win stuff. It's bad. I'm like, hey dad, can you I call my dad and I'm like, can you talk good about me when I'm writing like when I'm writing out my like resume or whatever? I'm like, I need you to like hype me up for me because I don't remember.
No, I agree with that. Like I know I'll hype myself up to my parents so then when they post for like me and my siblings' birthdays on Facebook, mine sounds the coolest. So I feel you. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. I do this thing whenever I'm writing my resumes or like anything like of that, I guess like sort. I'll go on my Snapchat memories and I'll look around the times of my life and see like what it is because I just document everything so well through photos, but I just cannot remember what happened to me. Anyways, your award.
No, definitely. I think the idea that like if like integrity, like just doing the right thing, like if you're always like working hard and doing the right thing, like stuff pays off, and like that's kind of like how it felt. Is like I worked really hard and like I didn't necessarily like look for like recognition, and then like because I worked hard, I got recognized at the end, and then like also just being like people actually recognize what you're doing. It's not like you're working really hard and nothing's paying off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's an awesome answer to give. I mean, very humble as you are.
That's my director of leadership, all right.
Yeah. So obviously you talked a little bit earlier about your event that you just had and whatnot, but you have an event coming up in January or February. Is there any sneak peeks you can give us into that?
Yeah. So I've thought about this already. And so I think what we're going to do is really similar with the idea of like breakout groups, except instead of like teaching the job, I want to like have like the breakout groups be like, hey, we've been in this experience, we've done this job for a little bit. Like, what's stuff that's working, what's stuff that's not working? Just kind of as like a way to like have like kind of like a Q&A session between other people in the same position, and so they can like help each other out. The one thing I want to do personally is like have it where like different halls like kind of share events that they've done so far in like the past semester, just so like if someone's like, hey, we want to do an event but we don't know how to do that, and they hear about an event that maybe another hall did, and they're like, hey, we really like your event, we can take that like pre-planned idea and give it to this other hall, so they don't have to like go through all the planning phases, but they're still able to put on quality events.
So moving on from a little bit more of the serious topics and more of the fun part of the podcast, you could say, what is your favorite dorm and why?
Okay, favorite dorm and why? Ooh, this is a good question.
I know I came up with it.
I see you. I've got to say Joffrey. And here's why.
Understandable.
Like, if you've ever been in a Joffrey den that faces west down Lincoln Way at like sunset, it's just so beautiful. You've got like Lincoln Way lined up perfectly with like the sun going down, and it's so pretty. Restrooms are pretty nice. Rooms got air conditioning. Also, like you get to play like crossy roads at least 3 times a day while trying to cross Lincoln Way, which is fun. like being a freshman junior year, it really taught me like how to like judge traffic and how fast cars are moving.
This is true.
Because it's like
I can testify.
Like you have to like make it to class on time, and it's like either A, they hit me and I don't go to class and I got an excuse. B, I make it to class and they don't hit me. Or C, nothing happens.
No, that's fair enough.
Tuition.
Yeah, hey.
Honestly.
So I guess the next question, one of the big people we work with is dining services, and you're a big dining guy. You like food. Who doesn't? What's your favorite dining location on campus and why?
Okay. Gotta be you. Well, okay. So like dining hall, or like can I like do like paid?
You can do
Give
anything.
give me both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dining
sure.
center and then general dining location.
Okay. So dining center's gotta be UDCC. They've got like a little like Mexican place. They got like Asian location. Fuse. Yeah, I don't know the names. They got
so
Parma, right? Parma.
Oh yeah.
Slice. Is that one?
Slice is the pizza one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. They have like so much diversity of food, and it's like, you just kind of look around. You're like, you know what I'm feeling tonight? Tacos, and then maybe you're just feeling like a sandwich, or maybe you're feeling like chicken and rice. And so it's just like that versatility that you have of food options is like peak.
Slice had the best taco pizza this morning. I was like, this is like not store quality. This is like, so I'm a big Domino's girl. I was like, this is Domino's quality pizza earlier.
Okay,
It was
I
so
would
good,
like
this
to
taco pizza.
ISU dining is significantly better than Domino's. I feel
True.
the UDCC pizza I have is more like Aurelio's quality. For those
I
of
have
you,
no idea what Aurelio's
for
is.
those of you who know, Aurelio's is it.
Okay, Domino's is high praise for me. Domino's, if you know me, Domino's is my favorite pizza place ever.
Okay, that's
Papa
the most-
John's over Domino's.
Ah, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Any day of the week.
Okay, saying Domino's is your favorite pizza place ever might be the most insane thing I've ever heard you say. Like Domino's is in the top like 20 place.
For reference, they basically live together without living together, so you know that's pretty outrageous.
We do. We live. So for context, we're just starting this straight out. We have no background context on who me and Fels are for this podcast, I guess. So me and Braden, but I call him B Fels. We live in the same, like we both live in Buchanan in the same hall or whatever. So for him to say that something is like, quote, pretty outrageous for me to say, he hears me talk a lot. Like I am a very loud person. Like.
Yeah, it's that's an insane thing to say.
But ultimately
Ultimately,
ISU dining on top for real.
exactly. Nothing beats a good slice of ISU dining pie.
Definitely.
So then, what's your favorite non-dining center?
Sure. It's got to be, is it Pico Picante?
Yes. It's so good.
Okay, I got to get a burrito from there.
What do you put in it?
Okay, so hear me out. Burrito,
As evidenced by
White
by getting
rice.
a burrito.
chicken, queso, more queso because it's free, lettuce, little bit of pico, and then shredded cheese. And you wrap that bad boy up and you eat it.
So that's an interesting. I had my first. I like pico picante, but I normally do the bowl. But yesterday, for the first time, I got a burrito.
Yeah.
I did the brown rice or whatever. I'm a
Sure.
big fan of their pork. I think
Okay.
their pork is delicious.
Sure.
Fajita veggies, got some of those.
Yeah.
Queso, obviously, and then I hit it with lettuce, pico, a little bit of sour cream, and then the mild salsa.
Sure.
Honestly, it was to die for. It was fantastic.
I tried
like
it.
getting the bowls, and then I like shaking the bowls because it mixes it up really nicely.
Yeah.
A little bit of a life hack. Everyone looks at me like I'm insane when I do that for some reason.
I
I
try
think
to
it's pretty normal.
keep the burrito pretty dry, just because if you let it sit too long, then it becomes wet and it
That's a good
like
point.
drains. Like that's why like mine's pretty dry. But like it's just so like you don't have it drip, because like there's been times where you get like too much pico and then by the end it's just like dripping down your hand. You just feel disgusting.
That's why you got to get the bowls.
Or that's
I
why
have
you
the
just eat your
problem with the
burrito quick.
That's a
what
good
I
point.
do.
This seems like an Adam problem.
Yeah, but like I try to savor my like $9.50 that I'm dropping.
That is a good point.
That's fair.
That is a good point. Yeah.
I got my burrito after donating blood yesterday. I needed a fill up. So, Adam, you're a smart guy. We have a joke that you're always in an exam. If you can't miss something, or if you miss something, it's because you're in an exam or studying. So, for all of us non-studiers, as like myself, what is your favorite or go-to study spot on campus and why?
Okay, Jardine, in one of the lecture rooms that has projectors in it, because Jardine is the nicest building on campus. It's the newest, at least.
Wild take.
No, it is.
As we are in the Student Innovation Center.
As a studier, it is the nicest building to study in because you can get a room to yourself. They've got charging places for you. They've got like computers that are connected to like the surround sound, so you put Spotify on
That's a good
and
point.
listen. And then also, no one's in it because like business majors don't study that much.
Because it's Jardine.
That's an outrageous
that is
thing
an
to
insane
say.
thing.
I
You're
just said that. I said that. I'm pissing people off, but it's
I
okay.
would like to specify, this is not the take of Chloe Anderson and Braden Fels.
Don't
this
worry.
is Adam Zeitlin only.
Ryan Inkstead's gonna have some words for you about that.
You know what? You know
He's
what?
going to be our next guest in the podcast, if I'm allowed to say that.
You know what? You know what? You know
Actually,
what?
no. He'll be here 2 podcast episodes from now. And I'll make sure to ask him what he thinks of you saying that.
Okay, I mean, crazy take, I know, but like it's just okay. Like obviously that's like overarching statement, but it's just like if you go to the Student Innovation Center and try to find a place, it's kind of hard to find a spot. But in Jardine, there's just always a spot open, and so that's why I like to go there.
Yeah, no, I fully
I'm
respect
big.
that and understand that.
I'm a big Student Innovation Center girly myself.
I'm a IRHA upstairs office if it's writing, IRHA downstairs office if it's reading, and the occasional Parks Library Tier 6 visit I enjoy.
I love the implication. The only things you do are read and write.
Yeah, it's perks of being an education major. So, Adam, you've taken a lot of classes in your time. What's your favorite class you've taken?
Favorite class I've taken here.
Or professor or both?
Okay, favorite class I've taken here, like from a professor standpoint, has got to be statics because Travis Hosting, who's my professor, was like one of the first professors that you could just tell genuinely cared about his students. That class was hard, but he went out of his way to make himself accessible, like to his students, and he really helped all of us like get through that class. In terms of just any class in general, it's got to be CRP, Community Regional Planning 201, and it was just like intro to like the American planning system. Basically, it was taking city planning and applying it to American history and how like as America grew, how they like planned cities and stuff. It's cool to like learn about how like the railroads were like associated with like city planning and like how you can tell like different settlements that were like, you know, British or Spanish or French were set up different ways due to kind of how they were colonially, like on the East Coast. So just like really interesting. And I'm a little bit of a history buff myself. So just like kind of seeing that was really cool.
So you mentioned you're a history buff. As history is one of my majors, what is your favorite historical moment ever?
This is a good question.
I know it's a good question. That's why I asked it.
I have an answer to this.
It's a really good question. It's got to be VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, because it really was like the first time that like kind of like established America as like a dominant power following the Second World War. It's like that was when we peaked, like as a country and went into like our expansion growth as an awesome country. So VE Day in Europe was pretty cool.
Honestly, if you asked me about anything from AP Euro, I could probably tell you about it in detail.
Yeah, Chloe's favorite historical moment ever is the Trojan horse, which she
Which
found
is
it is
not real. I am so genuinely upset about this. Well, because, okay, in hindsight, is it obvious that the Trojan horse isn't real? Yes. But also, I wanted to believe deep down, and it was really upsetting. My favorite actual historic fact has to be Martin Luther, the original one of the 95 Theses. That stuff is so interesting, let me tell you. Or Jean-Paul Marat.
Speaking of the 95 Theses,
Very interesting people.
There was someone at an M Shop open mic night that did a full comedy routine on the 95 Theses.
It was good, too.
It was hilarious.
She was so funny.
She was hysterical.
And it was even better if you like, because some people obviously like don't understand that. It was even better if you got it, like, and you understood what she was talking about. But it was good even if you didn't get it. She was so funny. I hope she comes back.
Oh yeah, she was great. So Adam, what has been your favorite Iowa State memory so far and why? Or you can give a top 3, top 5.
We can do a top 3. How does that sound? Okay.
That's safe. Fair for me.
So number 1, no questions asked, is when we beat Oklahoma State freshman year and we stormed the field and we sang Sweet Caroline. And then I like dapped up Will McDonald as he's walking by. So yeah, shout out 18th pick of the draft, Will McDonald. I dapped you up that night. Really cool. I don't know. Random fact, I guess. Adam lore. There we go. Number 2's gotta be like the banquet last year. It's just like it's so cool to just go and just like see all the stuff that like we've done in an organization and be like, okay, this is like kind of the culmination of everything that you've done, and it's just really formal and fancy. And then number 3 has got to be walking out of my geology exam in 10 minutes flat after answering 40 multiple choice questions in front of like all the other civil engineers in that building and just handing them my paper and leaving.
Jeez.
Is geology required for civil engineering?
Yeah, it's like everyone so for the midterm, we all have the same exam. 40 multiple choice questions. I got like a 39 out of 40 and finished it in 10 minutes. And I walked down, gave it to the teacher and left. And just everyone was just looking at me. And I was like, that's what's up.
I'm actually very impressed. I can't even lie. I'm very impressed with that.
Now, what did you get on the test?
It was
39 out of 40.
Yeah, that's why I said I was really
That's
impressed.
insane.
I set the curve of the class. Like, that was the highest grade in the class.
That's
One thing about Adam, when we talked about this earlier, how he's always an exam. Adam is the curve.
Now, so Adam, obviously that's really cool. But one thing that people don't know that you struggle with is being a fan of Indiana sports teams.
Being from Carmel, Indiana, you would be a fan of Indiana sports teams naturally.
I mean,
Yes, definitely.
obviously your Pacers have a bit of a brighter future with Tyrese, but the Colts, they look all right. But what has been the hardest part of your time as an Indiana sports fan, and what's been the best moment?
Okay, so hardest time was Andrew Luck leaving. And the reason I say that is because, like, we finally had the O-line. We had the team to do it, and then there goes your starting quarterback. And that we didn't know at the time that would leave us on, 7 years? Is it 8 now? Something like that. Too many years of having a new quarterback starting for the team. And you take a team that, could have had playoff AFC championship game aspirations and make them, B-Fels is giving me just, the,
All
what are
right.
you on? I will die on this. I will die on this hill. But the Colts could have gone to the AFC Championship game if Andrew Luck was starting in 2018.
If that's what gets you through the day and to bed at night, then
You had
Oh,
Marlon
man.
Mack, T.Y. Hilton,
Oh, I know.
solid O-line.
Yeah.
Defense was still solid.
That- no,
I'm
definitely.
not saying I'm just saying you had the team to do it. I'm not saying it's happening.
No, for sure.
I
Clay knows a lot about sports too, obviously.
Yep, totally. One thing about
So
me, huge sports fan. Totally know what all of this means, and I love football. Is that what we're talking about?
yes,
Yep.
yeah, she's doing
Love
great.
it.
She
Big
reminds
fan.
me of the Virginia Tech sport girl with the broccoli and the glasses upside down. You know what I'm
I'll
talking
have
about?
to,
No.
if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a photo in of who he's talking about because I have no idea what
Yeah.
he's referencing.
Okay,
If you're on Spotify, you just have to Google it.
Yeah. Best moment has got to be Lance Stevenson blowing into LeBron's ear. That is just so funny, and it's that was before we didn't know we were gonna lose. I think that was the series we went to Game 7 and lost, but it was that was just so funny to watch. Be yeah, we got Lance Stevenson. He's really doing that stuff. Yeah. As of right now, though, state of Indiana sports is we're on the come up, hopefully, but Indiana sports and mediocrity basically the same thing.
Yeah, well, hopefully as a Chicago sports fan, we turn it around sometime soon.
I'm perfectly fine emotionally since I am not a fan of sports teams. My draft doesn't exist, so it looks beautiful.
That's because she's from Burlington, Iowa, and doesn't have a major league team in her state.
This is true.
Hey, she's got the Iowa Cubs.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think with that, I believe that's all we have for this first episode.
I do believe that is all we have for this first episode. Thank you, Adam, for being on the podcast for the first guest ever.
The first, isn't that crazy? First guess of what the hell's going on.
Well, I guess y'all learned what the hell's going on with me at least.
That
Oh,
was good. That was good. That was really good.
That might get you asked back to be on another
Let's go.
episode.
Hey,
Next
I'm
semester,
always down to come
you
back.
guys might see Adam back here.
With that, we won't have an episode next week as we just won't. Space isn't open. But following that, I believe our next guest.
Is to be determined because Fels will not be here. So it'll be me and 2 people. It'll be a surprise.
For all of us here at the Inter-Residence Hall Association, this has been
What the hell is going on?